Welcome to Classic Stories. I'm Craig Tovey. Today's story is Rapunzel, or The Maiden in the Tower. Once upon a time, there lived a couple who had been wishing for a child for many years, but had never had one. At last, the woman felt that their wish might come true. Now, in the back of their house, there was a little window that looked out over a beautiful garden. It was filled with all kinds of flowers, vegetables, and herbs. A high stone wall surrounded the garden, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to a powerful enchantress, a wicked fairy who was feared by everyone in the town. Some called her a witch. One day, the woman was standing by her window and looking down into the garden, admiring all the beautiful plants, when she noticed a patch of soft, sweet greens called rampion, or Rapunzel. The bright green Rapunzel leaves looked so fresh and delicious that she longed to eat them. She knew she could not get any, and that only made her crave them even more. Her craving grew so fierce that she could not eat or drink, and soon she looked wretched. Her husband became worried. He asked her, "What is the matter, dear?" "If I don't get to taste any of that Rapunzel from the garden behind our house, I'll die," she cried. "I need to eat it." Her husband, who loved her very much, thought, "All right, one way or another, I'll get her some of that Rapunzel." As night fell and the stars came out, he climbed over the tall stone wall into the wicked fairy's enchanted garden. He hastily pulled up a big handful of Rapunzel and took it back to his wife. She made herself a salad of it right away, and she ate it happily. That night, she slept better than she had in months. But the Rapunzel tasted so good to her, so very, very good, that the next day when she woke up, she wanted it even more. Her husband knew that he had to climb into the garden again. So, in the gloom of evening, he climbed over the wall into the wicked fairy's enchanted garden. This time, when his feet touched the ground, he gasped, for he stood face to face with the fairy. "How dare you sneak into my garden and snatch my Rapunzel greens like a thief?" she said angrily. "Please," he stammered, "forgive me. I did it only because I had to. My wife is pregnant, and when she saw your lush Rapunzel greens from our window, she felt such a longing for them that she said she'd die if she couldn't get any." "Well," the wicked fairy said after a long pause, "if what you have said is true, I will let you take as much Rapunzel as you like, but on one condition. You must give me the child when it is born. I will take care of it like a mother, and it will not want for anything." In his fear, the man agreed to everything. After all, he thought, they might never even get the baby they wished for, as they had never had such good luck before. When the woman gave birth, the wicked fairy appeared at once. She gave the child the name Rapunzel, and she took it away with her. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child beneath the sun. When she grew older, the wicked fairy shut her into a tower deep in a forest which had no stairs, ladders, or doors. At the top was one little window. When the enchantress wanted to visit, she stood beneath this window and she called up, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, as shining and strong as spun gold. And when she heard those words, she took her braids, wound them around one of the window hooks, and then dropped them 60 feet down to the ground. The wicked fairy tied the braids around her waist, and Rapunzel pulled her up. Many years later, a curious young prince was riding through the forest and passed by the tower. He heard a voice singing so movingly that he stood still and listened. It was Rapunzel, all alone in her tower, singing to herself. The prince wanted to climb up to her, and he looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but Rapunzel's singing had so deeply touched his heart that every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. Once, when he was quietly listening to her song from behind a tree, he saw the enchantress come to the tower, and he heard how she called up, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel let down her long golden braids, and the fairy tied them around her waist, and Rapunzel pulled her up. "If that is the way into the tower, I will try my luck," he said. The next evening, when it began to grow dark, the prince went to the tower and called up, "Rapunzel! Rapunzel, let down your hair!" Right away, Rapunzel let down her braids, and the prince tied them around his waist, and she pulled him up to the tower window. At first, she was terribly frightened, but he spoke to her kindly. He told her that his heart pulled him back to the forest to listen to her song. Soon, she liked him very much. She asked him to visit her in the tower every day. It wasn't long before they decided to marry. Rapunzel said, "I want to go away with you, but there's no way for me to get down. Bring me a ball of strong silk string every time you come, and I will weave a ladder with it. When that is ready, I will climb down, and we can ride away on your horse." He brought her a ball of silk string every evening, for the fairy came in the day. The fairy didn't know a thing until one day she heard Rapunzel mutter to herself, "Why is this old witch so much heavier for me to pull up than the young prince?" "Oh, you wicked creature!" cried the fairy. "What do you know about princes? I thought I had hidden you from all the world and protected you lovingly, and yet you have deceived me." She clutched Rapunzel's beautiful braids and grabbed a pair of sharp scissors. Snip, snip, snap went the scissors, and the golden braids dropped to the floor. Then she banished Rapunzel to wander in a lonely wilderness beyond the forest. After the wicked fairy cast out Rapunzel, she tied the golden braids onto the window hook. And that evening, when the prince came and called out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," she let down the braids. But when the prince climbed into the tower window, he did not find his dearest Rapunzel. Instead, the fairy was waiting for him with a wicked gleam in her eyes. "Ha!" she cackled. "You won't find your dearest here. Never again will the beautiful bird sing in its nest. The cat has gotten it and will scratch out your eyes, too. Rapunzel is lost to you forever." Full of sorrow, the prince threw himself from the tower down into a bramble patch. He lived, but his eyes were blinded by the thorns. He couldn't see a thing. So he wandered slowly through the forest, eating nothing but whatever wild roots and berries he could find by feeling around with his hands, and weeping bitterly over the loss of his dearest Rapunzel. One day, he happened to stumble into the lonely wilderness where Rapunzel lived. She had survived by foraging for wild roots, berries, and mushrooms, and fishing in streams, and sleeping in a hollow tree. She had 2 children, twins, whom she had taught to forage and sing beautifully despite their troubles and sorrow. As the prince slowly shuffled through the wilderness, he heard a voice, and it sounded so familiar to him that he followed it. When he got closer, Rapunzel saw him and wept and hugged him to her. 2 of her teardrops fell into his eyes, and his eyes grew clear again, and soon he could see as before. Together, they made their way back to the prince's realm, where they raised their dear children and planted and cared for a beautiful garden and lived happily ever after. The end. Goodbye now.